we are live. Hello. Today I'm here with Aubrey. Aubrey is a route setter at my local climbing gym, the Boulder Rock Club, and a climbing coach there as well. I'm very grateful that she joined me today to be interviewed about her jobs, and just climbing. We're just going to be talking about climbing in general. But yes, thank you, Aubrey.
Of course.
So, first of all, just like little intro, where are you from and how did you get into climbing and why did you start?
Sure. So I'm originally from the Orlando, Florida area. I went to school at Florida State University, where that's where I kind of started climbing. Kind of both. The local climbing gym in my area, Aubrey Rock Climbing Center. I had a cousin that worked there, and so he kind of introduced me to it just through family. Then when I got back to school, I realized that some of my mutual friends were actually climbers. And it was like a small bouldering gym in Tallahassee.
Love it.
Started climbing there a bunch, got to go outside. I pretty much, like, my college education turned into going out on climbing trips every weekend and then grinding Sunday night to get all my homework done.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, no, it was good. And then, eventually led me out here. I worked at that climbing gym, Aubrey Rock Climbing Center, for about 6.5 years. And then I wanted to continue to pursue route setting and figured, and just climbing in the industry in general. So Colorado was the obvious place to do that. So, and here we are.
Yay. So you were a route setter in Florida too?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I did, like, my job now, I dabbled in just about everything. By the time I left, I was the operations manager of that facility, but that also included route setting, and I ran the summer camp program a lot of times. But that's where it started. And then between now and moving there, I was wanting to set like more competitions for like our youth climbing organization. So I went full into whatever opportunities I could do. So
that's so fun. So how many youth climbing competitions have you route setted for?
Oh, I mean, outside, so there's different levels, and so there's a lot of local competitions. So most of the time, our gym and BRC, now will host a local competition. On the regional and divisional level, I've probably set just under 10. It was always hard to kind of, once I moved to being a coach, it was hard. You can't really do both, right? You can't route set and coach and, be there for your kids at the competitions that would be at. So yeah. I mostly did comps to gain certification. So with USA Climbing, there are certain levels of certification that you go for that require clinics and doing comps in order to kind of promote your resume so you can set higher level competitions. So I haven't done that in a bit, but I've over the course of, the almost 15 years I've been working in the climbing industry, I'd probably say, a dozen or so or more.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
That actually made me think of another question. What kind of certifications do you have, and which ones did you get through the clinics or just through opportunities that you had, and which ones did you go for yourself?
Yeah, so my technical certifications through USA Climber, actually my highest is I am a level 3 route setter without endorsements, which means I can technically, the highest level competition I can set, I can apprentice at a national level competition, but I can't host my own regional event. Like I can show that I can work in a team and set on that level of competition, but I haven't had enough experience to like run and host like a competition. So USA Climbing might hire you. Like if a region doesn't have a certain level route setter, they'll say, hey, who wants to do this? And they'll send you out there to make sure that the competition moves as smoothly as possible. So that's kind of where I left off. I've been at that level for quite a while, since I started coaching more seriously. That's kind of taken the priority, which is good. I enjoy it.
Good. Yes, prioritize what makes you happy. Do you think that, or like a long-term goal, would you want to like host your own competition, or is that not a passion?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of stress. I mean, I find myself to take on leadership roles okay, but I always concern myself with there's an overwhelming amount of detail. They teach you that in these clinics, so they do a level 1 clinic, a level 2 clinic, and then you're kind of off to get your experience and through that. And like your level 2 goes a lot into about competition hosting. So I know how to do it. My enjoyment is the setting itself, I think, and not necessarily like being in charge of all the organizations and the scheduling. It's a lot. I give props to anybody who does it.
Wow. Yeah, I can't even imagine everything that goes into that.
Yeah.
So you said that you are now a little like more passionate about coaching.
Yeah, I think, obviously I set, at the BRC 3 to 4 days a week. And I very much enjoy that. When it comes to the interactions to the competition scene, the coaching aspect, I think, is always been a lot more fulfilling overall. I mean, setting amazing problems and watching some of the strongest athletes, especially in our region, climb on something you've set is really, really cool. But at the same time, I think seeing that perspective, and that's kind of how I started, and then now interacting on from that with that route setting mindset, like going to the kids and being like, okay, this is what the Routesetter intended. There's an advantage to that and a mindset, like you can see that with them. So you can kind of prepare. I even think, because a lot of times you'll know the people who set the competitions, like, okay, this guy, he really likes to do this kind of move and it's going to be really dynamic. So you kind of get the inside scoop. But, I enjoy it, and I've seen, I've been at BRC almost for 8 years now, and so I've seen a lot of them grow up through the competition season, and
so
it's a good feeling. It's a lot of fun.
I bet. So I forget, did you get into coaching in Florida too, or was that more something that you started exploring when you got to Colorado?
A little bit. I think, especially like the gyms in Florida, and there's so few of them there, that a lot of times when you work full time at a gym, you kind of just always are putting yourself in almost every role at some point. I wouldn't say that I ever was, I did, a little bit of coaching here and there. But my job at that gym was mostly a lot of event organization. The comps that we have in Florida, you do a lot more to make it kind of like a party. When out here in Colorado, it's just like competition.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and things have changed a little bit in the industry now. I mean, I've been doing it for quite a while, but you always want to make it fun. I think on all different levels, and a lot of our competitions would be both youth and adults. So we do youth in the morning, and then the adults would come in and climb tonight. But the bouldering series has changed a lot over the years. So now it's mostly because we have so many kids that are competing nowadays, it's just get it done. No fun and games. It's just it's now just competitive sport.
Oh my goodness. Have you ever competed yourself?
Back when, USA Climbing used to host something called the ABS series, which was just the American Bouldering series. And so those are where you would cross your youth competitions where the kids were trying to qualify for upper level competitions with more adult competitions kind of doing the same thing. And so I competed here and there, but I started climbing when I was 19. So I was too old to compete on the same level of the kids that I coach. So I've done a few, and we'll have a couple outdoor competitions. There's a pretty famous series called the Triple Crown Bouldering series that happens in the Southeast, and we used to do that for fun every year, kind of like a big party, and getting together with climbers from all over the Southeast that you didn't see very often anymore. So I've done a few, but it's definitely not been I wasn't really that great at it. Let's put it that way.
I'm sure you were.
Good enough. It's there's just some major athletes out there for sure.
Yeah, that's very true. There was a fundraiser at the Denver Bouldering Club a few months ago that was you can enter yourself into this competition, and I was thinking about doing it, but then I was like, I don't feel like I'm ready. And
this is the Heart and Soul bouldering comp. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've only been like to spectate, to be honest, because it's like it can be pretty chaotic. But just because there's so many people and imagine like your brand newest bouldering set at the BRC times like 100 people all at the same time. So it's usually quite like a great, like it's almost like a party in itself. It certainly can be. And those are the kind of events I think I like more, is like where it's not necessarily like a sanctioned event, like a comp that's like any of like the spot bouldering comps. If you've never done Psychedelia, which hopefully maybe this year we'll get to do it, because it's the blacklight comp. 100% worth it. It is so much fun.
Yeah, I've always I got into climbing like last year, pretty much when the pandemic hit. So before that, Psychedelia always really, what's the word? Not imitated.
Intimidated?
Intimidated.
Okay.
Intimidated me. And now I'm much more of a climber, so I would definitely do it this year if it happens.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. The community around climbing is just so good, and that competition scene. That's why I like those particular comps that are more like celebrating and hanging out and stuff like that. So as long as you can take like lots of people in one room, it's definitely a lot of fun. And it's really supportive. Like I've never really been to like a comp that's been like, you get a couple of people here and there that are a little bit too into it, but most everybody's just psyched and wants to climb new stuff. And, so I highly recommend, you got to do it. You got to do it hopefully this year. Fingers crossed that we get to do that.
Yes. I know. It's been such a crazy time. So all my questions that I had for you were like specifically about route setting, but I'm really interested in just learning more about your coaching job in general, and like do you coach all ages, all levels, or do you specialize?
So we do we have multiple squads. I am in charge of mostly any kid who's 12 and younger. I coach all the coaches are out on the floor. We have the young kids practicing at the same time as the older kids. So, and of course, a lot of the older kids I've known since they were young, so they always still ask me questions and stuff like that. They usually all jokingly call me mom, which is kind of annoying. But I basically run the coaching staff for the 12 and unders. So like my youngest is 7. And then the oldest of that squad is 12. But anybody on the team can basically go until about 19, is the last year that they'll take juniors. A lot of kids stop when they go to college, but some of them will continue for one more extra year for that. But we have like 3 days of practice, which are like going to be our like more experienced, like competition based team, and then we have 2 days with our kind of startups. These are the kids that are learning the fundamentals, but are like beyond what like our climbing club would teach them. They're like super motivated to get to climbing better rather than just climbing recreationally, if that makes sense. Highly motivated kids, nonetheless, just different stages in their climbing priorities.
Yeah, totally. So do you have to or what's the word? I keep just like forgetting words that
it's all good.
Are on my mind. Do they have to qualify for being on the team? Like, is there tryouts and stuff?
Kind of. So a lot of times how it works, we'll typically do like a one-on-one evaluation. So a parent might answer me, or I might meet somebody in climbing club that wants to take the next step, or their instructors are like, this kid's pretty motivated and pretty experienced, or maybe I'll see a kid in summer camp like, you've got talent, kid. It's like a recruitment team. I'm just like out there scouring the athletes. But we do sometimes have tryouts. We'll do usually some event at the end of the summer, because our season begins in August. We run team year round, but for the kids, we're we kind of evaluate their squad placement right around that time and kind of see, if they're ready to move up. Or a lot of the times the kids will be aging to one of the older squads. They'll graduate from my coaching and they'll go to my boss's coaching. And so there's a tryout period for that, but a lot of it is just word of mouth. And we'll work with a kid, we'll look at where they are. Most priority is in their safety skills, like their belay skills, especially with me. We usually always have a huge influx of the 12 and unders. And so it's really important that those kids, while motivated, while they can climb strong, can also
belay safely
and interact independently as any other climber. That way if I'm helping a kid with a route, I don't have to turn around and go up rope really quickly, which still happens from time to time. It's you got to keep a lot of eyes out. But so they, we typically, and we'll invite them to a practice, because we want to make sure that they like it just as much as we want them for the team. We want them to be on the team. So, and sometimes people, the kids do it and they're like, this isn't really my climbing environment, which is like super positive. I'm like, if this is too intense for you and you want to be on more of a fun basis, then do it. We want to make sure everybody's, content and happy. And I always point out too is, none of the kids we really require to compete. We're really, for some of the older squads, we have like expectations, and we say, if you're competing or climbing at this level, you should be looking at competition. But it's not black and white. Like, you compete or you're not on the team anymore, because kids have real anxieties, and those are things. And so we always try to like build on those. Like, I have a couple kids who always said that, well, I'm never going to compete. I hate competitions. And now they're like, competitions are the most fun thing I've ever done. I want to do them all the time. So we always encourage them to try it. If they're on the fence, like, try a local competition, something that's fun and there's no pressure, because the upper level competitions are a little bit more stressful in the sense of like, there's isolation and you can't see the routes beforehand, and there's time limits and it's like, So the local comps are like, here's 3 hours, go climb the 3 hardest routes you can. I'm like, that's easy for them to understand.
I love it. Yeah, so many of the kids at BRC are climbing so hard. I'm always like, oh my gosh.
And truly, I almost think, I don't want to thank the pandemic for it, but, we really made kind of a big decision to not necessarily like opt out of the competition season. Like, if the kids wanted to compete, we would absolutely be there to support them. But because of COVID, the formatting was much different. The people at USA Climbing did a great job for those who like want to compete and want to still like get to nationals, and have that goal. They really did a good job of keeping that alive, despite everything. But we decided, like, you know what, we're going to keep things internally in the BRC. We're going to, just not put so much focus on the competition season this year. We're just going to get better at climbing, get better at mental headspace. And honestly, I've seen some amazing progress come out of this season. So I thought I might have regrets about it, and I'm like, nah, I was 100% for it. I'm excited to get back to competition season again, but I think the kids have, really excelled just by, keeping the focus on just straight practice.
Totally. That's crazy that you say that, because I think I've noticed that too. Like, towards the beginning, I got my BRC membership in October, and I feel like I was seeing maybe 2 of the kids, or maybe it was just like I was going at the wrong times, but 2 of them climbing like the 13s, and now there's so many that are climbing 12s and 13s all the time.
And a lot of them just like, I'm excited for them to try it. I had this group of girls. I called them like the Fab Five or whatever. They're a pack. They don't get separated.
Cute.
And I taught them how to lead in June of last year. Like, they were fresh, they were teaching them, and now they basically will try anything. Like, they had, so many reservations before, but, I think a lot of them, that team atmosphere is they see somebody climb it and they're like, I want to try that. And the fear of falling, the fear of failure just doesn't exist anymore. They're just trying it to try it. And I love it. That's
Yeah.
like my favorite thing is like, I don't care how hard you send, I care how hard you try.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, in climbing, that's such a real, like the fear of falling, the fear of failure is so real and so, can be so like, you're just putting yourself down or like not believing in yourself enough, and you just have to hop on. And more often than not, I feel like you're surprised with your results.
Oh yeah, and like how far, just like one more hold, and doing that safely and obviously, so you're not blowing, quick draws left and right. But we do a drill that it's my favorite where they have to try to clear grade. So basically, if their on site is like 512, they have to go try every single 512 in the gym. So my kids, they like crimps. All kids like crimps. So they can match on them. It's crazy. So you're like, I'm sorry, you have to climb this sloper pinch route with all this technique, and they get super bugged out about it. But then they realize, like, it might not be your favorite, but sometimes your favorite style, if you climb your favorite style over and over and over again, you're not going to get better at the other styles to climb. So that's always a good thing I always try to teach them is like, just try it, and you can come down, you can tell me you hate it later, that's fine, or you might surprise yourself. Usually they still like crimps. I have to still like force them to get on the slopers, but maybe someday.
I remember I was talking to one of the kids a few weeks ago, and she was doing like an advanced minus in the first bouldering room, and she was just talking about like, yeah, crimps are like jugs to me.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I'm definitely a crimp climber for sure. I love crimps. But sometimes like we'll have to revert the coaching to be like, okay, let's talk about route reading, because you're not matching every single one of these because you can't. That's not good technique. Please don't do that. But they see holds and they're just like up, and they're so strong, so they can just do anything. But I'm like, okay, you're strong. Now let's make that more graceful and more efficient, which is always hard because they're just like, getting them to rest is impossible.
Yeah. You have like mandatory rest times during practice, right?
A lot of times, or usually I try to let us, some of my more advanced kids like self-manage themselves as much as possible. But like a lot of times I'll always have my phone on me to set a stopwatch. Like, okay, weird, because I'll say, okay, you have to rest 2 minutes in between this drill, and then one gets done earlier. And I was like, okay, next time we're timing. I'm just be standing there over them, just time. Okay, you can climb now. But that's that the age group I coach at is definitely hard, because their sense of timing is also gone. Like, can I climb yet? No.
Cuties. Aww.
I know, they're my favorite.
Okay, I have a few questions about route setting for you.
Yeah.
First one is, can you just like walk me through the process you go through when you're route setting? Is it individual or is it more of a team effort? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll break it down between routes and bouldering. So routes is pretty individual for the most part. BRC recently just went tapeless, which has gotten some mixed reviews. I'm excited about it because it definitely helps with time efficiency, and I think overall it makes the gym look a little less cluttered, which is nice. So usually start in the morning, walk in groggily, make coffee, and then at BRC we do it by date. So we'll walk around the entire gym. We'll find which one the oldest routes are in, depending on which room we're setting on, and then it's kind of first dibs. A lot of times we'll try to divvy up the responsibilities based on like grade. So like if I just set a 13 minus on Monday, I may not necessarily be the one to set the 13 minus on Wednesday. So that way there's different styles from all the different setters at different harder grades. Plus it's just physically tiring, in general. So, if especially too, if you're feeling pretty tired, you might have a tendency of setting a little softer than what grade you intend to do. Because we do keep a route count. We do make sure to have a really even, like, couple bell curves in the gym to make sure, usually, so if you're starting at like 5-6 and then it kind of goes up, and so you get to like the 11-12 range, and then you'll try to have a nice bubble there, and then kind of taper back out to like the super hard grades, because that's what the majority of our clientele is climbing. Then obviously now, because we're tapeless, we have to be particularly cautious about hold color selection. The struggle even between regular color seeing people and colorblind people is like a huge priority for us. So we have different rules and things we can set over the top of or set next to, which that can be a lot of the challenging pieces. Like, okay, I know what color I can set in. Okay, now it's go see what color or what holds we have available in that color. And then we always have, like, obviously with that bell curve, we have a grade. A lot of times it will be similar to what grade just coming down, and we'll maybe adjust it for a couple, or every now and then we'll try to like flip flop, like, okay, the 5-8 is over there and the 5-11 is over there, let's flip those. And then it's off, and then there's not really a set plan to it. I mean, sometimes I might look at the wall that I'm setting on around me, and if there's like a really crimpy route that's already there, I might set something that's a little bit different stylistically, so that way there's like a little bit of a variety on there. Check if I have the opportunity to put up some big holds, because everybody likes big holds, they're fun. But yeah, you just from there, it's there's no like set plan. Like, none of us have like a map to do anything on. It's just one hold at a time. Like, one of my instructors in route setting back in the day is like, how do you start a route? You put a hold on the wall. So just put a start hold on, because sometimes you will be like, I don't know what I want to make right now, and then once you get started, it just kind of happens. And then bouldering on the is more of definitely a team effort. All the same things kind of apply, but that's the one opportunity we get to start with a blank slate, because we start by stripping the entire wall, and then it's just kind of go for it, free for all. We're kind of working together, because obviously we have to see what colors. We don't try to set on top of each other, because that's just annoying. Nobody wants to fight like, no, I wanted that hold to go there. So it happens, but yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of teamwork involved, and a lot of individualism and style that go into both, for sure.
Wow, that is such a like fun creative outlet to have through your job.
Yeah, and I feel like I struggle really hard, because after doing it as long as I've been doing it, so I think I started setting. I always joke around. I feel like I started getting paid to route set in like 2011. So it's, we're coming up on 10 11 years now of doing it. I mean, there was always dabbling of route setting, and like, hey, do you want to put like a V3 up somewhere? And be like, sure, with your T-wrench. Now I have drill, which is fantastic. But it's hard to sometimes to keep creative, because it's so easy when you've done it so long to kind of go on autopilot. Like, what people like, and you can set, I'm pretty confident to set an extremely flowy, like, really good route, but every now and then it's like, okay, let's bump the creative juices up here. Let's set, like, whether it's a knee bar or a toe hook or something creative. I do that a lot in bouldering more than I do routes, I feel like, because you're gonna get psyched on like shorter walls. You get to mess around a little bit more on the ground and kind of like see how the move feels. And so yeah, you get to do, and bouldering, you get to get away with a little bit more craziness, I feel like, than you do with routes. That's for sure.
Yeah, because people can just like jump over or do it.
Yeah, bouldering, because like, a lot of people are usually more a fan when they're bouldering. They're usually more of a fan of like dynamic and powerful movement, and you can do that on a route, and definitely do it from time to time. But especially it's sometimes a powerful 5-10 isn't really all that appealing to climbers of that level. But bouldering, everybody, you can just try a single movement, and there's no harm, no foul in that. You're not falling, and if you're falling in the same spot on a bouldering route, it's not as frustrating when you've got somebody holding you on the rope, or you're on the auto belay and you're trying to get back on the wall, and you're like, no.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. So for like when you're setting a route, do you climb it after you set it and then like change anything if you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So forerunning is what it's called, and so we definitely quality check everything we set. And so we're checking for things like just like missing feet and awkward positions. We might tweak it because we were intending it to be a harder or an easier grade, or maybe we found one move that was a little bit too cruxy. Reach checking is really big. I'm 5'2", maybe 5'2.5", and a lot of my coworkers are very, very tall. So a lot of times, like, I am the designated reach checker. There is an ongoing joke if you ever are around when we're setting, like, well, they will yell reach check, and that is my intention to be like,
all right. Come in.
Yeah, exactly. Here I'm coming.
That's so funny. So when you're route setting for grades that are like higher than you normally climb, is that a thing? Or
oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, and that's a skill set with experience itself. There is a benefit to setting the things that you are capable of climbing. With experience, you can learn. Even if you can't send a route, you can tell the difficulty of individual moves on a lot of different things. So, if you put in perspective, from just a regular climber standpoint, like I think most anybody, let's put an example. If you can climb 512, you should be able to do every individual move on a 513 potentially. It might take you a lot of falls and stuff like that, but if you're sending 12s, you have the strength and capability of doing the individual movement. It's the ability to be able to put it all together as once, as one send. And keeping the headspace, keeping the endurance. So that is a quality that I feel like I have developed over time. I set a lot of things at the BRC that I do not have the capability of sending, or if I would have to work really, really hard on it. But a lot of times, like with my job, my recreational climbing doesn't necessarily take priority. Like I climb a lot for my job itself, which I think a lot of people would find kind of depressing. But I don't, I really enjoy it. Yeah. Especially if you're forerunning, like I can't really be going for the set. Like I'm already like trying really hard. I've already set a route. My arm is tired from putting up a drill all day. So like I am the queen of take. I will say take any day with no guilt whatsoever, because I'm like, all right, I'm just making sure the car running. That's it. But yeah, it's definitely possible to set and be able to climb or set above your ability level. But it does take a lot of understanding of movement, a lot of just climbing in general and feeling difficult movement. So I would say it's definitely possible for somebody to do that. And you also really need an encouraging team, which is, I think, really, really important too. That's the beautiful thing about the BRC and our head Routesetter like Brent and like the people that we've set with, for a really long time is, it's encouraging. Like I definitely have heard stories from people that like, okay, they can only climb 511, so we're only going to let them set 511s. Well, then there's no really development and growth in route setting. It's very much more a utilitarian position at that point. So if you have a really supportive team like I do, you're encouraged to try doing hard things and being like, all right, Aubrey, you're going to set the 13 plus today. Think you can do it? I'm like, well, we'll find out. And then you biff and you set like a V12 move on a route, and you're like, whoops, sorry about that. Let's tweak that a little bit.
That's so funny. I'm not surprised at all to hear that, because everyone at BRC is so wonderful. But that's
it's
really
great.
Good that
it's great stuff. When I moved here 8 years ago, I completely lucked out because I had a couple other applications out for climbing gyms, and I'm very, very happy where I landed for sure.
Yes, I am happy that you landed there too. Okay, I know that we are already running over time, and I want to be respectful of yours.
Yeah,
Is it okay
fine.
if I ask you a few more bigger questions?
Totally.
I think so. I wonder if I know this answer already because you mentioned the climbing competitions you set. But do you have any routes that you're the most proud of setting?
Oh man, we come across this question a lot where like you have things to do. If I would have planned, I would have had a screen share, but I did. I did set a boulder, back in 2012, and it was just one of my favorites. It was at a regional competition at ABC Kids Climbing Facility, and sometimes when you do competitions, you can play with aesthetics as much as you can play with like functionality as well. And I took a bunch of slopers and I put them in like a giant nautilus spiral. So you were on a slab and you had to maneuver your way across these slopers and then eventually come all the way back around to the top of them. I might have to scroll through my phone while we're interviewing this because it's I think one of the most creative ones, and it ended up being extremely functional at the same time.
Really?
I felt really good because I got a bunch of praise from a bunch of dudes like, oh, that was really, really fun. I was like, yeah, thanks, dude.
I would love to see this.
Yeah, I'll see if I can stay attentive and find it at the same time. But there's memorable ones like that. In the competition scene, I would say in BRC, there's definitely a few that like, wow, that was a really fun route. I recently set a boulder that had an upside down knee bar in it because one of my team kids found a video and was like, "Can you set this?" And I'm like,
"Was it?
No,
is it one that's currently in the gym?"
It's just got taken down last bouldering set. The yellow one with all the big, they're like big kind of sloper jugs in the arena. But I don't know. You didn't have to start it upside down knee bar, but it was kind of the fun gimmicky way. It's like on the right side of the arena, like when you walked in, it had like one big yellow jug, and then there was one facing the opposite way, so you kind of sandwiched yourself in it.
Was it like Okay, is the arena the first bouldering room?
No. So okay, I guess that's true. So we call the main room boulders like that's the inside and outside cave because we do set the inside out separate from the outside.
Got it.
And then the expansion boulder is also called like the arena just because of how it's kind of set up, like it's kind of built like an amphitheater. So you'll hear me say that both ways.
That is good to know because I always call it the cave because it's like more of but now I know it's the arena. Okay, wait, on the right side.
So it's like on the main face. So the last bouldering set we just had, it was like had giant yellow holds. I mean, they were really, really hard to miss.
I don't think I tried that one. I go through phases where I like don't boulder for a long time. Like I only go to auto belay or lead.
That's totally fine. I mean, I think everybody goes through phases. I wish I would have a more of a rope climbing phase from time to time because I definitely have always been more of a boulder. And I'm like, sometimes I just wish I had the patience to find the endurance sometimes to be able to do these.
That's so funny. What? Sorry, what were you going to say?
No. I was just like, because, that a lot of times we set really fun things and I'm like, I should be super motivated to send these. And I'm just like, I'll climb them once in forerunning and then I will literally never do anything on them ever again. So like, do you have any beta for that? I'm like, nope. I'm sorry.
That's really funny. I'm the opposite. I'm more of a sport climber and I want to like bouldering is so good for strength training and like just doing those really hard moves.
Yeah. We'll boulder sometime. We'll definitely. I have a couple women that I've talked to. We've talked about trying to set up some kind of like women's bouldering club, but I have to wait till like all the pandemic stuff is out there before I can even try to like facilitate anything like that. So, but we can boulder. It's totally fine. We should definitely boulder more often.
I would love to do that with you. Okay. I'm very excited for that.
I'm listening. I'm going to find that picture. I'm dying to find it.
Okay. Well. No worries if you
you're good.
Too focused on this. But my next question is, what was the craziest climbing trip or route you've ever done?
Craziest climbing trip. I mean, the craziest climb. I mean, growing in college and stuff like that, I mean, every weekend we would go out. It kind of all mishmashes together. You know, my favorite climbing trips for sure. Me and my boyfriend, we both were managers at our gym back in Florida for a while.
Is that
so
how
we
you met?
literally, yeah, through that. So it'd be 12 years in June. Crazy. But we would take a month off. And because that was the only way we could really like both take time off together as managers. So we would be like, okay, from this day to this day, which is usually in the fall because the Southeast is always really hot, we would just be like, okay, we're going to go, because it rains so much in the Southeast and the weather's always so unpredictable that you just kind of like go where the bouldering or where the rock climbing is dry. So I know we've definitely made some crazy decisions last minute. I know one time we were in Chattanooga bouldering and it was just downpouring in Chattanooga. And I was like, hey, do you want to go to the Red? And so we like at, I don't know, 6 o'clock at night, make the decision to just drive north to the Red River Gorge through the worst rainstorm ever, which I just like held onto the steering wheel and like cried the whole time. I was like,
but you made it safely.
We made it. And like, we like in the middle of the night, just like got to Miguel's. If anybody's ever heard of Miguel's, it's like the famous place at the Red, and like pitched a tent and just like woke up the next morning like, oh, the red, this is amazing. Yes. It's lagging out a little bit.
Yeah,
hold on.
it is on mine.
Your face
too.
Stopped moving.
Oh no.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
Is it? Let me try to stop and restart.
Yeah, I hear you. I just see your face stop moving, but you looked really good.
And now it's not working. Okay, have you heard of OBS?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm streaming on, and it tends to do this on Zoom when it just like my camera just stops working, which is unfortunate.
Just gets finicky all of a sudden.
Yeah, but I suppose that this is an okay time for this to happen. At least it's not in the beginning.
For sure. Well, if there's any last minute questions too, but I can just be here by myself. Just chilling.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't apologize at all.
Okay, well, let's end on this question. What are your future / long-term climbing goals for yourself?
For myself, you know, really, I'll be 34 this year, and my initial goals are always like very practical. Like, I'm gonna start stretching and doing really good things, because my goals are to stay in this industry as long as I can. Awesome. You know, I want to take care of my body. Route setting is very, very hard work. You know, and I want to keep doing that and keep rock climbing well. Yeah. You know, my aspirations aren't necessarily geared towards like grade chasing, you know, to be specific. But I just want to do this as long as possible, for as long as I can, for as long as it makes me happy. Yeah. You know, and keep finding the aspects of that make me happy. And I think that's, being healthy and strong and happy is my ultimate goal for anything. I've known plenty of people who have, you know, lots of injuries and they're, you know, sore and grumpy old men, and I have a tendency to be a grumpy old woman and old, but you know, I want to keep that motivation going. So 100%. and I think the diversity of my positions, the route setting, the coaching, you know, hanging out at the front desk, like those are, you know, the things that make me happy, is just keep the variety going. Yeah, that's a very beautiful outlook to have. As long as it's making you happy, that's what matters. Yeah, happy and healthy. I want these shoulders to stay active as long as possible. Yes. That's for sure.
Same here. I'm gonna stop this stream, but then I'm gonna come back to Zoom, and hopefully my camera will work after I stop the stream.
Sounds good.
Bear with me as I turn the outro on. Thank you everyone for watching and being here, and thank you, Aubrey, for your time.
Of course.
This was such a good experience, and learned so much, and very excited. All right, bye guys.